Let me start by saying this. If you think your idea has to be perfect before you get started, you are wasting time. 365 days goes by so fast.
There are some things that we need you to understand. Part of your business is going to be sales. So that's a critical skill set that you need to learn and understand. You have to take clients on that journey, guide them throughout your presentation or guide them throughout the process so they understand the value that they could potentially be missing out on by not working with you.
If you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you've been sitting on an idea for some time and you don't know where to start, in this video, we're gonna discuss why you might not ever make that happen and what you need to do if you do wanna make it happen.
So 2 years ago, we actually started a marketing firm. We began working with each other. And in our first month, we were able to generate $47,000 in revenue. And I'm not saying that's a big number, but if you spend time actually listening to this video, our goal is for you to be able to walk away with something that's gonna help you have a basic framework to get your business off the ground. So let's talk about getting started and the actual truth. Most people should not be entrepreneurs. And we'll talk about 4 different reasons why most people shouldn't be entrepreneurs and the critical skill set that you actually need to have in order to get your business off the ground. So first and foremost, Sara, most people simply fear the unknown as they begin their entrepreneurship journey. Yeah. Why don't you spend some time talking about why it's important to actually just get started?
The reality is if you wait for the perfect time, or if you're waiting for someone to not steal your secret or steal your what you believe to be proprietary information, the unknown literally is paralyzing for most people. So I'm gonna steal something that you always say, and when you are afraid and you don't have the confidence, or it feels paralyzing for you to move forward in your business or to even start, it's one of 2 things. Again, stolen from Mr. Tilmon here. It's the lack of preparation or the lack of information. How did I do?
I think you did okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What do you mean? Okay, that's crazy.
I'm just saying. This is essentially what I say, because the reality is if you're not confident in what you are doing, whether it's on the entrepreneurship level or just in life in general, if you go into the gym and you decide for yourself, all right, now I'm gonna go on this journey where the next 30 days I wanna lose 20 pounds, probably not gonna happen.
That's not gonna happen.
But the reality is, it's either lack of preparation or lack of information. In that particular case, I would say is lack of information, because the reality is the likelihood of you going into the gym and losing 30 pounds is pretty low. If you are 20 pounds, it's pretty low if you want to do it in 30 days. I'm not saying it's impossible, but in order to build the confidence in yourself to go down that path, you have to prepare. One of my favorite quotes, as you know, is it's better to prepare for the opportunity you don't have than to have an opportunity and be unprepared. There are so many situations I've been in where it's sales, business related, or even fitness related. And I'm prepping weeks, days ahead in order to prepare for one single moment. Part of what I do is I deliver speeches. So Sara can tell you, I will practice something 100 times for a 3-minute speech or a 10-minute speech or a 15-minute speech because I want to get the reps in. So a lot of this is about getting the reps in. And so this idea of this fear of the unknown and not knowing what the next steps actually look like. The truth is, you simply have to be willing to take the next step. Part of what we just did here recently, we did like a 3-day intensive with a group of young entrepreneurs, and we were talking to them about some of the tools and the skill sets that they'll need to possess in order to build that proper infrastructure to actually help get their business off the ground. We won't talk about that yet. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the truth though, Sara, is when getting people's businesses off the ground, there are like maybe 3 or 4 common things that we see. One of them is that fear of the unknown. And so they paralyze themselves doing that analysis paralysis, what they say. And then the second part of that, when you talk about actually getting started, you allow yourself to use some excuses about why you shouldn't get started right now. What are some of the common excuses that you hear?
Perfect timing is one of the excuses that we hear often. And the issue with perfect timing is it'll never come, and you will watch your competitors. You will watch people in your industry pass you by because you think or you're waiting for a perfect time. And then you get upset watching mediocre products get sold because they're marketed better. And the only difference between you and this other founder is they just started. And the second thing is people starting without planning. It's that not having a business plan. It's not having an LLC, which is a conversation for another day, because you don't necessarily need an LLC to be, like, to start from the very beginning, because there are tax implications of that, which is, again, a different video. But then it's, oh, I don't know who to market it for, and it's, I don't have a website, and I don't have a logo, and you come up with all of these daunting excuses, some very true, but if you don't start and if you don't overcome them, it just will never happen. And then it's, oh, I don't have the money, which is could be an entire episode or conversation in and of itself.
Yep.
You don't necessarily need, unless it's a consumer product, you don't necessarily need money to start that business. If you have a service-based business, you don't need funds to start it. If you're also afraid of what people think, entrepreneurship is not for you if you're concerned about what your family and your friends think.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, your friends and your family aren't your customers anyway. They're not your primary audience. And so to assume or to wonder what the people closest to you who don't know what your plans and your visions are for this particular business or why it was given to you, to not start because you're afraid of what they think, to me, though valid, is BS and stopping you from your purpose. Because if you have something to say, you need to say it. If you have a product you need to sell the damn product. Otherwise, you're stopping yourself from the purpose that you were given and the calling that you were given to impact people with what you're trying to share with your business or your service or whatever it is that you want people to consume from you. And that goes for content.
Yeah. So why don't you, because one of the things that we talk about a lot is the fear of the unknown, but it's also, you're not selling a service, you're selling transformation. People don't come to you just because you have a product. And one of the conversations we previously had, we talked about even the branding of products. So there was this guy who had this business idea per se, but it was a game that he had. So it was an incredible idea, at least so he thought, but he called it crossword something. And he was struggling to actually sell the game. He didn't really know the steps he needed to take to actually get that business off the ground. And so he took it to a friend of his, which turns out to be a businessman. And he spent time playing with him and he thought the game was incredible. So he's like, yeah, me too. I think the game is incredible. So what they do is they come together, putting their heads together, strategizing about the best way to brand it. They decide to change the name of the game. Sara, what was the name of the game?
Scrabble.
It was crossword something before, but basically how you brand it makes a difference. So the first skill set that I want you to think about in terms of your business is storytelling. That's one of the critical skill sets that you need to possess in order to make sure that people understand you're not just selling a service. You're selling a transformation. So every step of the way, you want to walk people along that journey. And so when you do storytelling, you bring people into your world. And so they now understand the value of your product, especially if they're able to see themselves within the stories that you tell. So of course you want to make those stories relevant to the person that you're talking to, but that's also part of this entire conversation. But that's not the skill set that I'm thinking about that you really critically need to have in order to be successful in business. But we'll dive into that a little bit later as well. The next thing we wanted to talk about in terms of getting started. So one of the things about all of this is you need to have a clear calendar. What are you going to be doing every single day? You're going to take the leap of faith and decide to be an entrepreneur, which is a crazy thing to do, by the way. Most people should not be entrepreneurs because they don't have the right skill sets in order to get there. So you have to spend a lot of time learning. You have to spend a lot of the time growing, because your business grows only as much as you're willing to grow, only as much as you're willing to invest in yourself in order to not only transform your business, because if you're transforming for clients, you also have to transform yourself. Nobody's going to be paying attention to what you're doing every day. Nobody's going to tell you, hey, you need to execute on this. Nobody's going to be there to handhold you and tell you exactly what you need to do every single moment of the day. There are going to be some really difficult times on this journey. So you have to prepare yourself along the way. But before I get too long-winded, because I will, my dad's a pastor, so forgive me. I'm going to pass it over to Sara. Sara, based on what we're sharing right now, what are some of those critical pieces of information that you feel like is important for people to know?
So he's the Mr. Nice Guy. I am the
Sometimes.
realist.
Depends.
That's true. I'm the realist, blunt one of the two of us. And so I'm actually going to give you 3 or 4 reasons why you should not be an entrepreneur. I'm going to give you 3 or 4 reasons why entrepreneurship is not for you. If you are looking for a lifestyle change, entrepreneurship is not for you because you won't have one. If you are looking to go into it for freedom of time, entrepreneurship is not for you. And before some of you go off on me in the comments, here's the truth. There's a difference between running a business and running an effing hobby. If you want to run a hobby, do your thing. Then you have freedom and you can do a little bit more about with what you want to do. But if you're trying to run a business and you're doing it for freedom of time, you won't have one. You are definitely giving up your 9 to 5 for 24/7. That is not an exaggeration. That is the truth. If you are someone who loves sleep, entrepreneurship likely is not for you unless you figure out how to maneuver the sleep that you need. If you're someone who's looking to spend more time with your friends and family, forget about it. You're not going to see them.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. You're not going to see them. This is not the place for you. If you are a mom and you think that entrepreneurship is not for you, though, that is not true. I am a mother of 2. It is for you, but we'll have that conversation in a different video. If you are someone who thinks you want for the money, if broke is what you want, then go into entrepreneurship. But if you're looking to go into entrepreneurship for money and not for transformation of your clients or your base, entrepreneurship is not for you. This road is too hard. It's too difficult. If entrepreneurship was easy, everyone would be doing it. But if you're looking for time, if you're looking for freedom, if you're looking for a lifestyle based on what you see on Instagram and the highlight reels, this is not for you. It takes 10 years to become an overnight success. If you cannot grind for 10 years with lack of sleep, lack of seeing your family, it's not for you.
Well, I don't even like my family like that, so.
That's crazy.
but realistically, there's this romanticized version of entrepreneurship that we see on the internet. People driving Lambos, people doing vacation and stuff all the time. That's not, none of that is real. There are some people who live that life for sure, but the reality is this is a grind. And so part of what the second skill set I want to talk a little bit about, because of what we just did with our intensive and what we typically do with clients, whether it's marketing or in this case, sales, there are some things that we need you to understand.
Right.
Part of your business is going to be sales. So that's a critical skill set that you need to learn and understand. It doesn't matter if it's e-commerce sales, because you need to speak from a marketing perspective and psychologically be able to share with people the value that they get from your product. But on the other side of that, let's say for instance, you have this service-based business, as we talked about earlier. Part of being able to share that transformation, which is a word that we continue to repeat throughout the course of this conversation, is you have to take clients on that journey, guide them throughout your presentation or guide them throughout the process so they understand the value that they could potentially be missing out on by not working with you. You want people to understand in that transformation, in that journey, the value of the product that you're offering or the service that you're offering. Let's say, for instance, you are a social media manager. Part of that value, part of what you want to express to people is understanding what they're trying to accomplish. It's not just about, hey, I will manage your social media for however much per month. You want to understand, hey, is this person releasing a book? You want to understand, does this person want to drive more people to their business, drive more people to their website? What is it that you want to accomplish? Now the conversation becomes, instead of me just managing your social media, this is going to drive conversions from you in XYZ area in order for you to not only hit those levels, but also potentially reach a revenue target. Let's say, for instance, their revenue target is 100 grand. Well, how does managing social media help that person get to the level where they can reach 100 grand in a year, where they can reach 100 grand in a month, if that's the goal? But you want to take some time to understand those things so you get them to understand what the transformation actually looks like from 1 follower to 1 million or anywhere in between. So as we talk about transformation, I want you to start thinking about many of those things, because those are the things that you have to execute on as an entrepreneur. But again, Sarah, I'm going to throw it to you because we've used transformation a lot. What are some of the things that come up for you, whether it's a story or any of our experience that you want to share with the people about transformation?
If I was to consolidate everything that you just said, it's these 3 things. If you don't know how to storytell, if you don't know how to sell, if you don't know how to market, you don't have a business.
Maybe.
You have a hobby.
Oh, my bad. You got a hobby.
You have a hobby.
Okay. So why don't you talk a little bit more about that?
About a hobby?
About why, if you don't know how to do those things, or if you're unwilling to do those things or unwilling to learn those things, why it's more of a hobby instead of a business.
Well, and honestly, even just in saying it's a hobby, it's actually an insult to the people who have very successful side gigs. And in this case, so there's...
That was me before, but I wasn't successful, so it didn't really matter. It was a hobby.
So there's entrepreneurship, there's a hobby, there's side gigs, you know, there's different versions or parts of being an entrepreneur and a business owner. But I think the reality is, if you can't tell a story as to, again, we've been talking about transformation. If you can't tell a story about a transformation, if you can't tell a story about why, who, and what it's for, if you can't tell an experience, reviews, how many Yelp reviews do we go through? How many times do we, before we go to a doctor or whatever, we go look up reviews? So if there's nobody to tell a story on your behalf, which is why branding and marketing is so important, because the branding and the marketing isn't who you think you are, it's who other people say you are. And so if you don't have a brand, if you can't market, and then if you don't know how to sell and who to sell it to, you are stuck.
Right.
You don't have anything other than idea. It's just a fantasy at that point. So it's really important to be able to tell a story for what the service or what the product is or what content you're making through, because it all runs together. The way that I think about content is, as a founder, it's the same thing to me. It's how do I storytell to get to point A to point B, which is whatever your goal is. And then if you can't sell and don't understand these psychological ways that people move with their money or what makes them pull their wallets out, you don't have anything there. Which is, I hear a lot of times from founders when they will have a great service or they think they have a great service. Or my favorite line that is slightly irritating to me is, oh, I have the best, or I have the best service, I have the best product. My first question is, who told you that? Because if I have a company and Tilmon has a company and Joe has a company, someone else has a company, we're all going to say the same thing. I'm going to say I have the best company. And I may very well believe that. And you certainly believe that. But if I can't tell a story to differentiate your company from my company from someone else's company, I don't have anything there.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm him, so of course I'm going to say that. No.
And then, you know, the part that people don't understand is you have to learn the art of sales. This is a non-negotiable. It's, you know, we always talk about how critical it is, because you cannot be effective if you sell to no one or sell to everyone. You end up with the same problem.
Yeah.
If you sell to everyone, you can forget it. Again, forget about it. It's not going to work.
Forget about it.
And if you sell to no one, then what are we doing other than wasting time?
Yeah.
So it's really, really important that you can storytell. It's important that you understand the psychological effects and the psychological reasons why sales is important. So you know who to sell to, how to sell it, and why you need to sell it, and what the transformation is that you're selling. And then if you can't market it, and if you don't know how to brand it, traditional marketing has changed. You have to be able to market it.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about early on when this video started was just a 13 years of sales experience and then a combined 24 years of marketing experience between the two of us. But we didn't share with you actually what that journey looked like. So in 2012, my first video that I ever put up on YouTube actually went viral. So there was a friend and I, we used to do these spoken word pieces, And I'm like, you know what? We should probably put one of them on video and see what happens. So I remember I was actually sitting in MTSU's social media class that had just launched its social media class. And I told my teacher that I had just put this video up on YouTube and we were going to see how it goes. From that class, I actually go over to our business building and I'm sitting there because now it's 12 o'clock and that's, I believe it was like a Tuesday, 12 o'clock, February 16th or something like that when we launched the video. February 16th, 2012, if I'm not mistaken. So for those of you who are thinking, oh, that was a long time ago, it was yesterday, bro. But here's the thing. I text my counterpart, which is Ryan Carson, and we're sitting texting each other like, hey, bro, now it's time. The video's about to go up. I was in the middle of a class and I was like, it's probably a good idea for me to step out so we could like kind of chat about this and actually what's happening. So we're chatting. He shows up to the business building, which he was maybe 100 feet away. 10 minutes after I sent him that text, before we knew it, by 1 o'clock, my phone was dead. The video was immediately going viral. After that, we decided to go on this journey where we're speaking and we're doing all these different engagements, but we don't really have a business. We kind of have an idea of what we can do, but we don't necessarily have a business. So I ended up moving to Atlanta, eventually moving to LA, and now I'm working at this company. And before I knew it, 7.5 years had gone by. And I'm like, wait, what the hell just happened? I've spent so much time sitting on this business idea. I've done multiple podcasts. I've released a couple books. I've done all of these things, but I do not feel like an entrepreneur. But that's because it was kind of a hobby at that point. It was kind of this idea, kind of this side thing that I was doing because it was safe. Actually, what I was doing was walking around with crutches and just hoping eventually I would learn how to walk. Well, a couple years ago, Sara and I meet, and now we're bouncing ideas off of each other. Then, for some reason, as the idiot that I am, I decided to do this bike ride from San Francisco to LA. And
with no bike and no training.
With no bike, no training, but that's a separate story from this one. It's part of the story, but it's a separate story from this one. So that happened in October of 2023. And I come back, and Sara said it to me after the fact, but I come back and now I'm on this performance plan at my job. I'm like, what the hell? Like I just got back, I'm off of bereavement. So one of the reasons why I went on the bike ride was because of bereavement. And then I get back, now I'm on this performance plan because now I have to execute this job that I have. You're talking incredibly sized deals, biggest deals you've ever seen. You talking about deals like that. And so now I need to make one of these deals happen. But at that point, I was really at a place where it was time for me to go anyway. Sara and I sit down and have a conversation and we're like, let's do it. And that's how all of this got started for us. We were already working together before, but when we decided to get this business off the ground, I knew it was important for us to have the marketing skills. It was important for us to have the sales skills. It was important for us to have the storytelling skills in order to execute at a level for all of this to be successful. And you're probably at a place right now and you have to make a decision about your life. Am I going to take this leap of faith? Am I ready? Well, you're probably searching, like I was, for that 13-year experience for the perfect time. Well, consistency helps develop the timing. Persistence helps create the timing. In order for you to go off on any journey, it doesn't matter if it's entrepreneurship. I'm always a person who brings fitness into this somehow. I do a little bit at the gym, but the reality is you have to get started. And if you don't get started, you'll never know what you're capable of. You'll never know how you can properly execute. So what I just did there is I shared a story with you. And that's the value of storytelling, because some of you are watching this right now and you're like, man, that's exactly where I am. That's exactly what I feel. I've been wasting time. I haven't given myself the opportunity really to figure out, hey, is this a good idea? Should I take the jump? I have all of these responsibilities that are stopping me. Well, I'm struggling to piece this thing together because I simply don't know. Those are all the excuses that we make. We fear the unknown. We tell ourselves, I don't know which step to take. And then we find ourselves being busy instead of being in business. Hobby versus being in business, and giving ourselves the opportunity to really develop the skill set that's necessary. We talked about those critical skills that you have. One of them is storytelling. The next one is sales. But really, really the most critical skill you have to have is your mindset. Because if your mind isn't right, I'm telling you, this journey is going to be, and probably will be anyway, the most difficult of your life, because you have to keep growing. Again, if you don't grow, your business doesn't grow. If you don't grow your skill set, if you don't develop the mindset, you'll never have the tool set in order to be a successful entrepreneur. Yeah. Back to you, Sarah.
No, I couldn't agree more, because the truth is, for as long and agonizing and grueling as entrepreneurship is, let me start by saying this. If you think your idea has to be perfect before you get started, you are wasting time. 365 days goes by so fast.
Yeah.
It goes so fast. Start with the idea that you have now, the idea that keeps you up at night, the idea that you just cannot let go, that idea that keeps your mind running 24/7 and makes you wonder if you're wasting your life and wasting your time. Start with that idea. And the truth is, if you keep going, the idea will kind of fix itself. The business will fix itself. You will continue to ideate and evolve. I started with social media with a 2-year deadline to see if I could monetize it. And 6 years later, it's a full 7-figure brand. We're now running multiple businesses. There's 7 businesses under the entire entity. There's investments in venture capital and private equity and 17 advisory seats. But that's not where I intended to go when I first started. It was purely, I had something to say, and I gave myself a 2-year deadline, and every single dollar that I got was poured into the business. And if I didn't, this 6 years went by really fast.
Yeah.
I would have never had this opportunity. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. We wouldn't have met. There wouldn't be a podcast. There wouldn't be this incredible network that I've built. But it all happened because I made a singular decision to just start.
Yeah.
I did not have to have it figured out. It didn't have to be perfect. If you're watching me and you've been following Sara Lovestyle for the last 5.5, 6 years, I have evolved 3 or 4 different times. There's been several ideations of the brand, and it's changed, and it could look wacky to someone else on the outside, but my audience continues to grow with me, and that's what people want to see. Same thing with your business. If you're looking for investors or you're considering taking investor money at some point, you better damn well be able to storytell, and you better be able to know who you're selling it to, and you have to get started. No one is going to give you money in the early stages. That's just the truth. Yes, there are angel investors like myself, but if you can't even tell me why you need the money, who you need the money for, where it's going, the team that you're hiring, if you just don't know and you don't get started, it just never happens. And this idea of falsehood that we give ourselves that there's a perfect time, it just doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. Let me give you guys a story. So there's a founder that I know. Several years ago, he's sitting in a restaurant with his wife and his son, and they're enjoying a nice dinner. It's super dark. He's hungry. He just wants to effing eat. He doesn't really care about the ambiance or the aesthetics. But his wife says to him, "Hey, let's take a family photo." And he's like, "Bro, I just want to eat." Like, he's like, "Babe, I just want to eat." And
It'd be like that.
she's like, "Come on, let's just take a photo." And it's super dark. So they take their phones and they set them back to back, with the other person's flash on, right? So he has this idea. And it works, and then he sees someone else in the restaurant do the same thing after they've taken this photo of theirs at this restaurant. He goes home, he gets an idea. He has this light bulb moment, and he goes and he gets some like LED lights, and he creates this like thing around his phone. And his wife at the time says to him, "I like it, it works, but it's really bulky, and you don't like things that are bulky." So he says, "All right, forget about it." He throws it in the fridge. In the drawer. I don't know why it would be in the fridge, but he throws this idea with this thing that he's made up, and he puts it in a drawer, and he forgets about it. About a year later, he's watching another version of Shark Tank, and this founder goes up, and he's talking about this LED case that lights up, and you take your photos, and it fixes a problem that all of us had at the time. You want to know what the product was?
Lumi?
It was Lumi.
Yeah.
He had the same idea a year prior, wasn't sure that it was a good idea, and wasn't sure that he was the right person or the right time, because he was also working on corporate, to create this business.
Yeah.
And I said all that to say is, if you wait for the perfect time, trust and believe that someone else has received a similar vision and they will create it if you don't. So stop playing around with what you're supposed to create and the impact that you're supposed to make in the world because you think it's not a good idea or you're afraid of what people will think, because someone else, I guarantee you, is creating it at the same time.
Man, I should have started YouTube when I thought about it.
Also, Lumi ended up being sold for $100 million. Just saying.
Also, just taking a step back really quick, one of the things you talked about was how the original idea isn't necessarily what the idea becomes. Samsung was a grocery store.
YouTube was a dating app.
YouTube was a dating
website.
app. Yeah, dating website. Mm-hmm. There are other examples of that, but those were the two that were top of mind. Because, I mean, like I said, when I had the idea for YouTube, I should have just started when I was like 12. Yeah, I was 12. How'd you know? I was 12 when YouTube started, so I should have just started then. But on a serious note, just from the standpoint of what this conversation is, we talked about just getting started and all the things that you need to know. So we talked about sales, we talked about storytelling, we talked about mindset, we talked about some of the things that could potentially be holding you back. But what are some of the things, at least in your case, when we talk about that 3-day intensive that we just did with those young entrepreneurs who I think are incredible, amazing, by the way. So if you're watching this, and you better be watching this, right, talking about you and how incredible I think all of you are. And just the journey of that, from that transformation of being able to sit with them, understand where they were in business, because I mean, they still have a great opportunity to bring on a pretty sizable client, which would exceed what we did in our first month, by the way. What are some of the takeaways that you have from that conversation and that opportunity to actually sit down with those guys?
I think one of the most impressive parts of these young gentlemen doing this intensive is it's two parts. It's their willingness to invest in themselves. I think, especially as young as they are, by the way,
bring that up, by the way.
Like, they're young entrepreneurs. Them investing in themselves early speed tracks their growth. Mm-hmm. What we taught them in 3 days is 24 years of what took us forever to learn. I think the other thing that I was so impressed with is a lot of times people will talk about wanting a mentor. I get asked that a lot. Sarah, will you be my mentor? Almost every mentor I've ever had, I paid for.
It costs you.
It will cost you to speed track, fast track your progression, your business, even if you're starting from the ground up and you're starting at zero, which we've done intensives for ground zero.
And it's all the time. It's not money all the time.
No.
It will cost you time or some other thing that may be mutually beneficial to the person on the other side. It doesn't necessarily have to always be money when we're talking about investing in yourself. Right. Sarah talked a little bit earlier, and I'm sorry to cut you off, about just from an investment standpoint, if you have the idea of investors, well, the first investment that needs to happen is investing in yourself, to develop the skills, to actually spend the time learning and growing yourself in order to grow your business. So, my bad. I'm gonna let you finish.
I completely agree. It's the investment into themselves, and then also understanding that they would need a mentor. If I would have gotten a mentor at 20, 21, 23, I can't imagine how far I would be now had I known to start earlier. Yeah. I thought that was incredibly, really just incredible of them. The next thing that I will say is how hungry they were to learn. I think as entrepreneurs, it's really easy to have an ego because you think this idea is your baby, but it's not. What you don't realize as a business owner is unless you want to run a mom and pop shop, why do I always say stuff that's controversial? Unless you want to run a mom and pop shop, which is perfectly fine, a family business, which is also perfectly fine. But if you're looking to reach the high 6 figures, if you're looking to reach 7 figures, or scale it to the point where you have investments in a board and maybe you even want to sell your company at some point, not having an ego is going to be incredible, because one of my mentors told me that this is not your baby. This is essentially co-parenting with a lot of people. It requires a village to grow and raise and scale a child and to raise a business, it requires a village. And so if you hold on to this thing so tightly, you're going to suffocate it and it won't exist. And so if you're afraid of sharing your ideas, or you have an ego around your idea being perfect, or you have an idea that you know what's best, you cannot scale and grow this business. Again, we've talked about mindset. It is being confident enough to understand your concept and your vision, but also willing enough to be flexible on some of the details that don't really matter, that can continue to evolve. I read somewhere recently, or I heard something recently, one of the fastest ways that you can tell an early entrepreneur is like their idea is a secret or their business is a secret and they're afraid like to be copied. Here's the truth that I will tell you, and it's again going back to these the 3 gentlemen that were just really young entrepreneurs who understood value here. We're in a similar industry. Mm-hmm. Imagine they don't do this intensive. They wait 3 to 4 years to try to learn it, 5 years. Most businesses don't make it a year. What is it, like less than 50% make it to a year? It's like 70% make it to year 2 or something crazy. Mm-hmm. So we're in a similar industry, but they understood the value of not just the mentorship, but understood that they needed to discuss and talk about their business plan and what they were doing. We don't see them as competition. We see this as an opportunity to help. There's so much money available in this space.
I need some more of it too.
I say, of course. Yeah. But because there's space for all of us, this would be detrimental to all of our growth and all of our partnership if they decided that they were going to keep it a secret. And I said all that to say, 80% of people who hear your idea won't do anything with it anyway. Most people are too lazy or won't implement. It's really that simple. Yeah. Then you get to the other, let's say 20%, right? You'll have 10% who will implement. Oh no, the journey is grueling. You know that everyone else is going to quit anyway. Yeah. So the reality is, if you have speed, if you have efficiency, a great team, great marketing, great sales, great mentors, you can reach the 1% because nobody's going to effing try anyway. Yeah. Most people don't want to do this. It just sounds sexy, but it's a really difficult journey. And so I really appreciate the fact that 1, they were not concerned with us being in the same industry. 2, they don't see us as competition. And I love the fact that we gave them homework every day, or for every day of the intensive, and they did the homework and they did it exceptionally well. They didn't bullshit the process. And we watched them in real time from day 1. Even when we did some sales training with them, in 5 minutes, watching the difference between their original sales conversations to 5 minutes later, and then as we continued to do the exercises and the homework, they were completely different people in 3 days. Yeah. I was really, really impressed.
Yeah, I think about it this way. Everybody wants to eat, but not everybody is the same level of hungry. I have a mentor and we work out together frequently. There's this one day we're going to the gym and we're waiting on everybody else to show up. And I'm just like, well, maybe we should just get started. And so I was asking him, I was like, hey, do you think everybody else is going to show up? What he says to me is something I won't forget. He said, those people might be going in the same direction as us, but that doesn't mean they're going at the same speed. So all these ideas about life that you have, all these ideas about things that you want to execute on, we might be going in the exact same direction, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going at the same speed. There are some things that I am going to do that other people are going to look at me and be like, that dude is crazy. For me, that's a compliment. When you call me crazy, that means I'm doing something that you're unwilling to do. So every single time I hear somebody call me crazy, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. That's a compliment for me. But I want you to start thinking about these things, even on the journey of an entrepreneur or running a business. Your goal is to change your life. And in changing your life, you create an opportunity to transform the lives of other people. And by positioning yourself in that way, you are creating an entire world that somebody needs out there. It's not going to be your friends. One of my favorite things to talk about, your friends are not your clients and your clients are not your friends. There's a lot of content that I put out there, and I remember early on, I used to think to myself, why are my friends not engaging with this content? They don't care. It's not important for them. They don't care about transforming your mind. They don't care about the entrepreneurship journey. They're all in corporate. They don't care about this faith-based stuff. They're doing it at church anyway. They don't want church from Tilmon. They want it from somebody. So they're not my clients. They're not your clients. So you have to frame everything you do for the people that you're supposed to serve. And again, if you have competitors, that doesn't mean you're going at the same pace. So sometimes there is opportunity for partnership. There's opportunity for collaboration, which is why it's important, lastly, to build the right relationships. And for some of you, that simply could mean early on, as you get started, you're not necessarily making money. There's some things that early on I did for no cost, for free, just so I can get my feet wet, just so we can get started, just for me to figure it out, so I could build the right relationships, build the right skill set, build the right mindset. So when it came down to it, now I was ready. Because guess what? Now I'm able to do. Hey, this is my work. This is what I was able to do for this person. This is how we did that. Typically, when we work with clients, here's what we do. Now I have an example. Not only am I the example of the work of the people that I did for free. You can see their transformation. So if you're a fitness person or a fitness enthusiast or a fitness coach, whatever it may be, anything along those lines, maybe your role is to get maybe 10 people a transformation. Hey, I was able to help all 10 of these people lose 10 pounds in 3 months. I might be able to do the same thing for you, but let's talk about what essentially your goals are. You may have to have a few of those conversations in order to really get yourself off the ground to get started. Don't fear the unknown. Don't be busy and say you're in business. Don't start every conversation with, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I don't know right now, and I am learning it. I am growing because that is part of this journey. You have to give yourself the space to learn, to take the next step. So not only your business can grow, you can grow as well.
No, I don't even got to.
I don't know why I keep doing this, by the way. Back to you, Sarah.
No, I mean,
in the newsroom.
Right. I think you nailed it. To give a little bit more context about things that you can do if you don't have the money to pay for a mentor. If you have a service that is valuable and you know that it's valuable to someone, give that value in exchange for the mentorship that you're looking for. If you are someone who's wanting to learn to speak, I'm blanking on it now, but what's the ones where it's like once a week and you go in there and you do, and you give speeches to...
I know it, and I almost did it. It's something about tables. It's not the red table. It's not a TED Talk. It's something along those lines. I'll think of it after the fact.
Yeah, we'll link it.
As soon as the camera's cut off, I'm going to remember, I promise.
For sure. But look in your city and find networking events that are free. Eventbrite has them all the time. Free events that are within your same industry for marketing, branding, sales. If you have a CPG product, I've attended some of those. There's at least one of them every night in LA. So find something in your city inside of your industry, or even if it's parallel to your industry, or if it's, let's say it's sales and you don't understand sales, but you're a founder, go to one of these networking events. They are free. If you can get to a conference, go to a conference. If you can't afford the conference, here's a little something that I'm gonna teach you. Let's say you can't afford to go to an Afrotech or whatever conference, right? What you're going to do is you're going to find out what's in the vicinity, what restaurants and what hotels are in the vicinity of that event, or stay in the lobby of that event, because everyone tends to hang out in the lobbies, at the bar. Go find where people are going to be, where are the cool hot spots, where are people hanging out. Network like on social and find out where everyone else is going to be, so then you can still get some of the gems. The other thing that I'll say too is, and this is something I've talked about very controversially in another episode of Influence to Equity. If you go to a conference and you only talk to your friends, it's your effing fault if you get no value out of it. It's your fault. Yes, if you go to a conference and the only person that you talk to is your friends, it's your fault. You can talk to them, mother effers, when you get home. You can talk to them on the plane, talk to them on the phone, but that is not the time and the place. Go find everyone in your industry and build together. Mentor one another. Figure out who's at step 1, who's at step 5, and work it out amongst yourselves in between. If you're not even in the same effing city, it doesn't even effing matter. Go talk to people. okay? If you need a lawyer and you don't know how to get a trademark lawyer and you know you need to trademark your business, go find lawyers that are at that conference. If you need someone in sales, go find people who are in sales. There's so much networking that is available, and that is one of the maximum cheat codes for like speeding up my career, is being able to be a master networker. There is a skill set to it, but again, it's because I can tell stories. It's because I know what I'm selling, I know what the brand is, I know what we're marketing, and so it's not a difficult place to be. If you're an introvert, entrepreneurship is for you. I'm an introvert with a very extroverted job. There is space for you. There's a lot of introverts, a lot of billionaire introvert founders. Hire the extroverts, build a team of extroverts, build a team of people who are skilled in their particular one lane. Go find those people. And the other thing that I will say about finding free mentors, and this is something actually one of the gentlemen that
I'm not free, by the way, so don't.
I'm not free, don't come to me.
No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. It depends.
Kind of. Something that I did early on in my life is I used to work in politics. And so what I did was I wasn't being paid, but I would go and network with the politicians and figure out what I needed to do and what I needed to learn. Something that one of these young gentlemen did that I thought was absolutely brilliant is he worked at a golf course. Knowing who is at that golf course, it was free. He's not being paid, free. But the amount of value and deals that are being done on a golf course, just to be in the vicinity in the space, he was able to learn a lot about entrepreneurship, which is why at 18, he knew, oh shoot, I need mentorship and I need to speed track my business, because they were garnering clients that were very high, 5 figures. Like, they're doing deals that are larger than the ones we did. But it's because they were in the right environment. Even though he wasn't making any money, being in the right environment allowed him to grow and to speed up his evolution of his company. And yeah.
Last question I'm gonna ask you, specifically based on what you just said.
Uh-oh.
$500,000 or dinner with Jay-Z?
Can I say something that people may not agree with?
You're with me, I don't care what you say.
Okay.
As long as I don't get canceled, then I care.
Here's the craziest part about people saying that they want to meet with Jay-Z. Because I see a benefit to both. If you choose dinner with Jay-Z over $500,000, but you have not been preparing for the meeting your entire life and adult career, for the meeting with Jay-Z, you just go on a lunch. That is a waste of time.
A nice lunch.
It's a nice lunch. But to choose going to meet with Jay-Z or doing lunch or dinner with Jay-Z without being prepared for that opportunity, without being prepared for what is your ask? I go to meetings all the time. I go to pitch competitions all the time. And I can say almost 70% of the time, 80% of the time, the people pitching forget to have an ask.
Yeah.
They don't ask me for anything. They don't know what they're asking, and they don't know who they're speaking to. And so for me to have a meeting with Jay-Z and not know what my ask is, not from a use perspective, but from a value perspective, to have that meeting and not be prepared, to me, is asinine.
Yeah.
Now, then to also take the $500,000 to be able to invest in my business also means that I have already done the work that needed the $500,000 investment. Now me, I'm taking both, but because I'm greedy like that.
How?
I'm taking both, but I believe that because 500,000 influx into our company in business is amazing. That's software, that's team, that's expanding across the country. There's a lot. That's our media company, films, being able to invest in, BIPOC founders, being able to invest in more Black and brown women. It's more opportunities, obviously, from that standpoint. But if I was to meet with Jay-Z, I also know what my ask would be. My ask would be $500,000 and I would then tell a story and pitch and have him as an investor, because that's what I would do. And that's how you get both.
Get you somebody who can do both. That's what Drake said.
Yes.
But on a serious note, if you've been watching this video and somewhere along this journey, you found some type of value, there's a few things that we want you to walk away with. First and foremost, you have to develop the right mindset if your goal is to be an entrepreneur. You can't just get out here all willy-nilly and just hope and pray that things work out.
Oh, and can I interrupt you for 1 second? You might not need a mentor, you need a therapist.
She interrupted me anyway, even though I told her no. So
I did.
if you have a goal to be an entrepreneur, first and foremost, you need to develop the proper mindset in order to be an entrepreneur, because there are going to be some days you question everything. There's moments where you're going to have to go through these experiences in order to understand what's going to be required of you in order to grow, in order to change your life and change the lives of your family and all of those people that you love. One of the things I say a lot is, if you develop the right mindset, it's going to help you develop the skill set to develop the tool set that's going to transform your life. That's essentially what this is about. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to get good at storytelling. You have to be good at selling the value, selling the transformation to people. And I know a lot of you are probably hearing these things and saying, oh, I don't want to be a salesperson. You don't necessarily have to be a salesperson, because sales is not what you do to people, it's what you do for people and with people. You help people achieve their goals along the way in order to build the life, the dreams that they want to build. That's the important piece about sales. The next part is you want to understand at every step of the way what you're going to be doing. You have to calendar your days, because it's not about motivation, because you're not always going to be motivated. It's about the discipline to get up, get out, and do what's necessary in order for you to grow and for your business to grow. Lastly, we want you to understand the reality of entrepreneurship is that every single day you have to show up. A lot of us are, or a lot of people who are watching this, you're watching this probably at your 9 to 5. You have a side gig, or you may even be a young aspiring entrepreneur who has an incredible idea and you don't know how to get that off the ground. Well, first and foremost, you have to get started. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to get out here and try some things to figure out what is it that's going to help me get to the level that I want to get to, because at every level is going to be something new that you have to learn. Always be willing to learn, be willing to grow. And as we close this conversation out, I want you to remember this: we are Mavericks, and our mission is to help you grow as an aspiring entrepreneur, as a young entrepreneur, as a startup founder who doesn't exactly know the steps you need to take in order to be successful. These conversations are for you. So if you found it helpful, make sure you join us for the next one.